What's up, everybody, and welcome here right now for Matchday 29 of the Premier League on this video. My Premier League predictions for Matchday 29 is right here, right now, and we start things first with AFC Bournemouth and Brentford. Big game is going to be between Bournemouth and Brentford for tomorrow. Is at the Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth, however, are going to really go for this win, of course, because at the moment, they're climbing up the table slightly now after a poor run of games around December time. I have seen Bournemouth really improve. They did draw 1-1 last week to Sunderland, on the weekend, not last week, we're in during the week's games, but 1-1 to Sunderland during the weekend. A big draw over West Ham United the following game, and they beat Everton 2-1 on Matchday 26. For Brentford, however, a real sneaky win from Saturday to Burnley. They won 4-3 away from home. I thought Burnley might got a draw over Brentford, to be honest, because both teams played so well on the day at Turf Moor Stadium. But Brentford are doing very good. They're climbing up the table in the Premier League. They're in those European places currently at the moment in the Premiership. And they are in a very good position. They're only at least now 6 points adrift from the UEFA Champions League positions at this moment in time. I mean, they've not got long left of the Premier League season to go. And Brentford were the favourites to get relegated, of course, this season. But however, at the same time, they obviously, they've been very, overachieving and just thinking to themselves in their heads, they're better off comparison to the teams down below in terms of their form this season. They've actually proven that. And Keith Andrews would have to prove a lot as a guy that never came from management. A guy came as a set-piece coach, got into the first-team manager, and then he took over from Thomas Frank. And he's really overachieved, I think he has, as a Brentford manager personally. And I've seen how they've done all season. And he will be obviously managing Brentford, obviously against Bournemouth for tomorrow. And I think that Brentford are going to really score goals, I think, in this matchup. And so is Bournemouth as well. I think both teams will score goals during the game for tomorrow. So my score prediction for Bournemouth and for Brentford, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I don't think that there's going to be a win out of these two teams. I think these two teams will share a point, a big point, because both teams are in a very good position, challenging for the European places. And I don't see that anyone can get a result out of this game, personally, by tomorrow. If Bournemouth win and if Brentford win, then they're hot contenders, of course, for those European places by May. But I do think this game will come down to a draw. They're both in the mid-table positions in the Premier League. So I do see that this game will come down to a draw. So my score prediction is going to be Bournemouth 2, Brentford 2. Now my score prediction between Everton and Burnley. Burnley in the relegation zone at the moment. And they are very out of it now. Did so well against Brentford during Saturday's game. They actually almost got a draw over Brentford. But that goal was ruled out for offside. And then the game came down to an end. That ended 4-3 obviously for Brentford in that matchup at Turf Moor from the weekend. But Burnley play away from home against Everton. Everton doing so well in the league. They beat Newcastle 3-2 on Saturday. Big 3 points away from home. That I thought Everton might not get anything from that game, but they've done very well by beating Newcastle. And they are also in the European races as well to try and qualify for by the end of the season. I know David Moyes has done that a lot of times at Everton through the years, making Everton into a top 5 or top 6 team in the 2000s. And since he took over again for his second spell, nothing's changed. And he's done the exact same thing as he did back in the day, doing it right here, right now, currently as manager for the Everton team. Do play at home, though, against Burnley, and I do see that Everton picking up a win this game, I think. I don't think Burnley will get anything from this game. I think it'll be very tight, I think, because I think Burnley will score a goal, I think, over Everton, but I do think Everton will score 2 goals in the game, and Burnley will score 1 goal. So my score prediction is going to be Everton 2, Burnley 1 as my official score prediction for Matchday 29. Now my score prediction between Leeds United and also Sunderland. Huge game. Huge game for both teams. Obviously for Leeds United, glory Leeds United. We know that for them, did very well this season. Bit disappointed that they lost to Man City from Saturday's game, but they are in a very good position here against Sunderland. Sunderland are a top mid-table team. Are obviously dropping down the table slightly. Sunderland, they've done very well this season, both teams especially, getting promoted from the Championship to the Premiership. But this season, these two teams will likely to be staying up now, I think. I don't think that any of these two teams will be anywhere in a relegation dogfight. And a great achievement, because through the last few seasons, we always seen teams who get promoted to the Premier League automatically go straight back down to the Championship. 3 teams within 2 seasons, and it's happened a bit recently now. But there's a bit of a change on that now, because West Ham and Forest and Spurs are in that relegation dogfight, and Leeds look safer, and Sunderland will look very safe, of course, to be in another season in the Premiership. Still got a few games left of the season to go, 9 games left, but Leeds are playing at home though. Will be a very tough one for Sunderland to get anything from this game. So I'll go for a win for Leeds, due to the fact that Leeds have done very well at home. Noisy ground. Did make it hard for Man City at times on this weekend as well. So I'm going to go for a win for Leeds. I'm going 2-1 the score prediction. I think Sunderland will score, but I think Leeds will score 2 goals in the matchup, and they'll get points adrift away from Spurs, 4 points adrift from Spurs, and also at least 9 points adrift from the relegation zone. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Leeds United. Now we go now to the matchup between Wolves and Liverpool. Big matchup, by the way, for both sides. For Liverpool, however, they're away from home. They are also in a European fight to try and qualify for the UEFA Champions League. For Wolves, however, they are obviously relegated. Forget about they beat Villa on Friday. Forget about they drew against Arsenal 2-2. They are down. But they did one good thing, Wolves, by beating Derby County's points record. And they got more points compared to what Derby had during the season when they got relegated in 2008. They got 13 points now currently after beating Villa 2-0 from that game on Friday. But Liverpool, however, they're in a very big chance, of course, to try and go and qualify for European football. It's a big race between Villa, United, Chelsea and Liverpool in that top 4 race. So I think Liverpool have got a lot of pressure to go and win this game against Wolves at Molineux. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Liverpool, personally. I do think Liverpool will go to Wolves and pick up 2 goals in the matchup. I don't think that Liverpool will lose that game for tomorrow. So I do think the score's going to be 2-0, my score prediction for Liverpool to win against Wolves by tomorrow. Now we move on now to Aston Villa and Chelsea. Big matchup, by the way, for both sides. Chelsea, however, very big matchup for them. They're obviously challenging in those European places, and so is also Aston Villa. I forgot about these two teams are in a race together for the fight for European football. Villa did very well when they actually last played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge way back in December. They beat Chelsea 2-1 at Stamford Bridge. But now again, obviously a few months later, they're both in a mix, of course, fighting each other for a spot for the Champions League positions for next season. In my perspective, in terms of the prediction for this game, I do think that as of for Chelsea, I think they're going to be in real hot form in the league. As of for Aston Villa, same thing goes to them. They also drifted off a little bit now in third or fourth position now after when Man United won their match. So they've drifted a little bit down to fourth position. But I forgot to put a score prediction between Villa and Chelsea. I'm going to go for the win. I think it might come down to a draw. I think I'll backfire it. I think Villa will really have to get back into that momentum after losing to Wolves on Friday. And I think they've got to really give it against Chelsea for that game. Chelsea were robbed against Arsenal, my team Arsenal, during that game on Sunday. But I do think that Villa will have to do something in that game to stop Chelsea. I don't think that Villa will go for the win, but I do think they might go for a draw, definitely so. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw at Villa Park, 2-2 between both sides. And that'll be my score prediction for the game by Wednesday. Now my score prediction between Brighton and Arsenal at 7:30 kickoff for Wednesday. Big match, I do think, for the Gunners, and also a big matchup for Brighton. It is going to be very, very huge. It's going to be, by the way, very, very huge. It's going to be for both sides, especially us, because we somehow drop points to teams like, Wolves and the Brightons, and we always have funny results. We end up maybe capitulated in games. We've done that recently during this season, despite us being top of the league by 5 points clear at the top of the league. We do drift off a little bit, we do. And we've got to keep on winning games now for the end of the season. And I do worry about this game a little bit, and if we're going to end up picking up 3 points in this matchup, because Brighton are at home, and Brighton can do anything in this game to stop us in this matchup for obviously by Wednesday. But since we have got to win this game for Wednesday, I do think we're going to go for a victory against Brighton at the Amex Stadium. At the Amex, I do think Brighton will score. I think they will do in the matchup. But I do think we'll pick up a win in this game, I think, against Brighton. I might go for an easier, comfortable win for us. So I'm going for Brighton Hove Albion 1, Arsenal 3 in my score prediction. 3-1 to Arsenal at the Amex Stadium. But don't be surprised if Arsenal end up, doing something stupid and giving away the league, because they could do it. I don't trust Arsenal at all. I don't trust Arteta, I don't think, after the Wolves game. I don't trust him as the manager, I don't think, for this team, because it's been 4 seasons now and we always come second every year. And I don't trust this game as such. But since I'm being very optimistic about this matchup, I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Arsenal as my score prediction, due to the fact that we did well by beating Chelsea, we did well by beating Tottenham, now we do it now to Brighton. So I am going to go for a 3-1 win, but it can still be a funny game for us if we don't win. So I'll go for 3-1 anyway for the Gunners. Now my score prediction between Fulham and West Ham United. West Ham are in a relegation dogfight. A real proper dogfight, by the way, in that relegation drop. You see the points now, it's so tight now between Tottenham, Forest and West Ham. And I do see that out of Spurs' game and Forest's game and West Ham's game this match day, I do think that Spurs have got more of a favourite in them to go and get the win over Palace, compared to what Forest have got to play against Man City, and also West Ham travelling away to Fulham, because Fulham's in good form, Fulham are currently as well. And they did very well by beating Spurs 2-1 on Sunday. And they are one of those funny teams, Fulham. They do play well on their day, especially at Craven Cottage as well. But personally in this matchup, since Fulham did very, very well against Spurs on Sunday, and this game here happens at the Craven Cottage Stadium for Wednesday's game, I do think that West Ham, they do score goals though. They do. The good thing about West Ham and Forest, they do score goals, but they can't win games. That's the only issue that these two teams have got. They do well, they play well, they fight very hard. They really fight hard compared to Tottenham have done all season so far. But at the same time, they can't handle a win. That's the biggest problem between Forest and West Ham. They cannot handle or pick up a strong win. They might get goals, they end up losing or end up drawing in games. So I do think this game against Fulham on Wednesday will be a very, very hard day it will be for West Ham, I personally think. So in my score prediction between Fulham and West Ham, I'm going for a 2-1 win for Fulham. due to the fact that Fulham's that sort of team are very strong. They are very strong, you know, in that top half of the table, in that mid-table position, really, really, really fighting, of course, and they've done that, you know, this season, and they are one of those teams, of course, at their home ground, they do end up doing quite well, and I think that they're going to do it against West Ham, like as they did against Spurs on Sunday. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Fulham as my score prediction by Wednesday. Now my score prediction between Manchester City and Nottingham Forest. There's no hope for Forest in this matchup, I don't think. I know that they got a managerial bounce. I do think Victor Pierre is a very good coach when it comes to... He did well by keeping Wolves up last season, and I can see that happening for Forest this season. But the only issue is about Forest, though. They've got all these quality players in their squad, but they've got 4 managers so far in one season. You know, you got Nuno Espirito Santo on 3 games. Ange Postecoglou within 5-6 games of the Premier League. Sean Dyche under 8 games or 9 games of the Premier League. He was sacked. And then Victor Pierre is the 4th coach in one season as manager in Nottingham Forest. I do see that it might really be a worry, I think, for Forest now if they're going to stay in the league. I think that in terms of favourites, I do think Spurs are more favourites still, even though they're being poor to stay in the league. And I do think West Ham have got a bit of fight. But as for Forest, though, I'm a little bit worried about them. But at the same time, like I said before about the West Ham game prediction, they do fight, they do score goals, they do really work as a team together, really take it to the end. And I've seen that with Forest, though, despite they've got 4 managers in charge in one season. But I do see a little bit of weaknesses in terms of, you know, different ideas from different coaches might really knock them a little bit. And it might be a very dangerous position that Forest might be by May. But that's in one side, though, about that. But talk about this game itself, from Man City's point of view, we want Forest to go and win away from home. But it's going to be a tough one, though, I do think, for Forest, though. I do think City will go and win this game very nice and comfortably against Nottingham Forest. Despite, you know, they are fighting a little bit. Despite 4 managers took over from one season. They do fight, they do Forest. They do really take it, they do in games. But they're away from home against Man City or a top side. So in my honest score prediction between City and Nottingham Forest, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win for City. Very nice and clean and comfortable. And I don't expect Forest to pick up anything from this game. They're in trouble, I think, in this matchup to do anything in this game. Maybe in the league they might be in trouble as well because of the managerial changes being too much for them. And they might be favourites compared to Tottenham to go down. But they do show a lot of fighting games I've seen with Forest. And I've seen that they can score goals with the players they've got, the gel they've got together. You know, beat Fenerbahce in the Europa League was one good thing under Victor Pierre. So I do see a good squad about Nottingham Forest. I do see them staying in the Premier League. But the only problem is, are those 4 managers changes in one season to help them? Not likely in Premier League, yeah. Any team with 4 managers in one season stays in the Premiership. Most of those managers get relegated in that season. So I do think a bit of worry for them. But in this game, I do think that City will definitely go for the win, though. So 3-0 for City as my score prediction. Now we'll do the score prediction between Newcastle United and also Manchester United. Big game this is going to be for Newcastle. They are not doing great. We've seen they lost 3-2 to Everton on Saturday. Manchester United, however, they are obviously doing very good. You know, under Martin Carrick, yeah, I've seen that Man United are really doing well. Like every game since Carrick took over, win after win after win after one draw to to West Ham. Though they drew 1-1 to West Ham, but apart from that, they've been very consistent. They've been winning games after games. And I do think that Man United have got enough to get Champions League football. Personally, by May, I think Chelsea's more the weak link. I think compared to what Liverpool. I do think Liverpool and Man United will probably get in the top 4 compared to where Chelsea and Villa are at the moment. I do think Villa have got a bit of belief about them still, but I do think those 2 teams on paper would be in that top 4 positions by the end of the season. Depends how Unai Emery does from now until the end of the season, not dropping points or even losing games, because you can see now Man United are now catching up to Villa, and so is Liverpool and maybe Chelsea as well. But obviously Newcastle are not looking great, with them at the moment. They're dropping down the league a little bit slightly. They lost 3-2 to Everton. They've got a lot of prioritised themselves the way for Champions League, of course. They've got to play Barcelona in a couple of weeks from now. They've got that in their minds a little bit as well. And also the FA Cup as well in their minds for Eddie Howe's side. So there's that to worry about. Also with the league itself. And Man United, of course, will probably be more favourites, I think, away from home to Newcastle. I do think Newcastle score, because Newcastle do score goals at home, and they are good at that, they are. But with Manchester United, however, they're in good form. They could do anything on that day, and they've done that with Carrick now for the last 5 or 6 games now. I've seen that Man United have been playing good football under him. So in my prediction for the game on Wednesday, I'm going to Newcastle United 1, Manchester United 2. So Man United will go for the win, I think, in that game. 2-1 the score prediction. I think Newcastle will be good to be leading the game. But then Man United, however, will score 2 goals to go and wrap up the matchup. Now we move on now to Thursday's game. It's Tottenham versus Crystal Palace. And this is a real big panic now for Tottenham. Tottenham are in a very big trouble. Not joking at all. You lose to Fulham, you lose to Arsenal, you've got a new interim manager from now to the end of the season. Not a good track record he hasn't got as manager. I've seen that with other clubs he's managed. That's a big knock-on effect for Tottenham. And I do feel a bit worried about Spurs. Well, as a football fan, I actually worry about Spurs. But as an Arsenal supporter, I want you relegated. I want you relegated by the end of the season. But as a neutral football fan, it'll be a bit funny if they go down, and it'll be a bit... The landscape of football, I think, will change in the Premier League dramatically if Spurs get relegated. I think it will really affect Spurs. It will really affect the Premier League if Spurs get relegated down to the Championship if they play like this from now till May. Their fixtures coming up here, they're not easy. Not easy at all. And they've got to go and win a game. They haven't won a game at all. They only won 2 home games this season. 2 home games this season. They're worse at home than they are away from home. And I've seen that with Spurs this season. And I think they're in a very dark time there at the moment. And I do think Forest probably might be more in danger compared to Tottenham are, due to the fact that managerial changes have been dramatically a lot with Forest. But as for West Ham, I think they're going to be more safer, because I think they do show a lot of fight in their team. They've invested in January as well. Like Diamond from Fulham was a very big signing for West Ham United. They have made some additional signings, West Ham have made, especially Diamond as well. They've got a bit of fighters in their team. And so has Forest as well, don't get me wrong. Forest have got a good squad. It's just managerial change that might be too much for Forest. Might be the idea that I think they could be in huge trouble compared to Tottenham are, compared to where West Ham. I think they're going big trouble. But for Tottenham, however, I do think they are in a real big trouble though. It is tough to say about who will get relegated. I think Spurs will be more safe, I think, because they're big finances compared to where Forest and West Ham are. But you can't, you could be too big to go down here, like Leeds. Too big to go down to the Championship due to financial difficulties. They went down to the Championship. It happened to big clubs. Look at Aston Villa. They got relegated in 2016. Look at Newcastle. Got relegated in 2010 and 2016. It can happen to anybody. Anyone can get relegated. Any big team can get relegated. Like Leicester, for example. Look at them. They got relegated like 2 years ago. And it is not a myth at all. You might say they're a top 6 side. Yes, they are. Financially, they are. But they're not showing it on the pitch. And anyone can get relegated. Anyone. Even Arsenal can get relegated who end up in this position. We could be relegated. Anyone can get relegated. And they do play Palace. Palace have been a little bit patchy, a little bit at times this season. I've seen that they have been a little bit poor. But you've got to respect Palace, even though they're under pressure now after losing Oliver Glasner. Losing Mark Gahey during this season, and also Eze to Arsenal. I have seen that Palace done well during the season, but then during the second half of the season, they're dropping down the table, got knocked out by Macclesfield out in the FA Cup third round. But you look at their last few games, Palace, in their stats, they beat Wolves 1-0, they lost 3-2 to Burnley at home, and they played in their last match-up to Man United, and they almost beat Man United, by the way. They were actually leading 1-0 at Old Trafford from Sunday's game, but they did lose 2-1 to Man United, though. And that might be a little bit of a, let's say, not a concern, but I think it might be more favourites for Tottenham to go and win this game. And you got to bear it in mind, Spurs' last victory was Palace in December the 28th, the 29th of December, the last time they actually recorded a win in all competitions in football since then. And they beat Palace, and that's the last time that Spurs have won any other game since then. But I do think with Palace here, I do think they're going to score some goals in this match. And I do think Spurs will score some goals as well. I think if you can keep Richarlison fit, I think that'll be brilliant. Because he scored a good goal against Fulham to give a little bit of hope for them in that matchup from Sunday's matchup. If you keep him fit, I think he'll be scoring. I think he will be by that game for Thursday. As for Palace, however, I think they're going to score goals also, I think. So my score prediction between Tottenham and Palace on the game by Thursday, I'm going Spurs 2, Palace 2. Spurs 2, Palace 2. 2-2 draw, I think, is going to be in this matchup. Due to the fact that Tottenham will get a point out of this matchup, personally, I do think that Tottenham will be in a lot of pressure, and they have to deliver. They have to. You know, everyone's talking about it. You know, TalkSport, the media, all talking about Tottenham getting relegated this season. They really, really have to do something now, dramatically. I don't expect them to win, I don't think, on Thursday. I do think they're going to end up drawing. I think they're going to probably be at best, because their home form this season has been very, very poor. But don't put that behind them, though. I do think that Spurs have got that potential to go win this game against Palace, though. But at the same time, I do see that they've been very, very poor, very, very poor. And the players don't really seem to care at Tottenham at all. And I've seen that with them during this season. And I think that it won't come down to win. I think it will come down to a draw, I think, because they've got to pick up something. And if they draw on Thursday, then they hit 30 points so far this season. Not great points, but they get 30 points by the end of Matchday 29 of the Premier League. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw between Spurs and Palace by Thursday's matchup. And that is all of my score predictions of Matchday 29 of the Premier League, of midweek games during this week. And if you like this video, go and give me a subscribe on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching TGI Football Premier League predictions during these midweek games, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, and I hope you enjoyed this whole Premier League prediction video. Have a good one.